We get introduced to Nanami Mizono, a high schooler with a father who has a severe gambling addiction. Her father disappears suddenly, leaving her with his debt. Anonymously, of course, she has no way of paying the debt and hence gets her house grabbed as security. Nanami is now homeless and has to fend for herself on the street. On a particular night, she ends up saving Mikage from a wild dog. Mikage is revealed to be a land god, and to thank Nanami, he kisses her forehead and transfers his powers to her. With the title comes a dilapidated shrine, which is also home to a certain yokai named Tomo, who is less than hyped about the new god that has shown up. The shrine also houses two Shikigami, Kotetsu and Onigiri, who have the opposite feelings to Tomo and welcome Nanami, pledging themselves to her. Tomo leaves the shrine. Nanami ends up following him. Here, she gets duped by a witch pretending to be an old woman with sprained legs. The witch intends to eat her, but Nanami catches on and escapes using a white charm. She uses another to summon Tomo, who intends to watch, but a certain chain of events leads Nanami kissing him and turning him into her familiar. Enraged, Tomo then ties the witch to a tree. The day after, Nanami wakes up thinking everything that transpired was a dream, but that hope gets shattered instantly. On the other hand, Tomo has redecorated her room, so it's less run down. Tomo pledges his allegiance, albeit enraged, but gets over it for a bit and tells Nanami to increase her godly power through granting wishes. Tomo tests Nanami's power by asking her to turn water into sake. It fails. Tomo is more like Alfred from a certain series about a bat. Nanami proceeds to rush to school after hearing that Kurama, a pop star, will be there. Tomo warns her about the possible dangers and allows her to go, wearing a cat-eared hood to hide her forehead. Kurama makes his dramatic entrance. The girls swoon, and he tells Nanami to get off his seat. Nanami heads off to cry in the bathroom. Tomo shows up and hurts her feelings before Kurama approaches her as she leaves the bathroom. She pays him almost no heed and leaves. Back in the classroom, Nanami happens to have 30,000 yen, which Kurama has apparently misplaced. After the class searches and finds Nanami with the money, Kurama bluffs that he lent it to her. Tomo makes a splendid entry, calling Nanami a lady, effectively shutting down Kurama. The next day, Nanami goes to school without the hood and ends up being targeted by Kurama, revealed to be a crow spirit. Tomo intervenes and turns him into an ostrich. Nanami saves Kurama from Tomo. Lady Numino Himiko, a leader spirit of the swamp, shows up at the shrine, and Tomo ends up kissing her while bounding Nanami to her room. Meanwhile, Tomo presents Nanami in a bolstered position, while Himemiko's attendant, Ayatake, states otherwise. Nanami intervenes as a fight is about to break out, introducing herself to Lady Himemiko. The fight still proceeds with Tomo turning Ayatake into a fish. Nanami saves him from becoming grilled fish and gets asked for aid by Himemiko in fixing her bond with Kotaro Urashima. Nanami agrees, even with Tomo's disapproval, and the next day finds Kotaro at an ice cream parlor. After a slight run-in with Isabi, her annoying classmate, Nanami gets Kotaro to agree to meet Lady Himemiko before being escorted by her familiars in the night fog carriage back to the shrine. Nanami turns Himemiko into a cute girl through the powers of transformation before guiding her to place the meeting. A heartfelt reunion and slight interjection by some ruffians later, Nanami has finished her job, with a nudge of encouragement gaining a bit more power in return. A white snake leaves a mark on Nanami, which, in school, is revealed by Tomo to be a mark of favor. In other words, the snake wants to make her his wife. Tomo proceeds to be her escort and transfers to Nanami's school to protect her from the snake, also becoming an instant hit with the girls. After school, Tomo has dozed off in class when Nanami gets kidnapped by Mizuki, the white snake in human form. Nanami wakes up in the Yanomori shrine with two Shikigami happy at the arrangement of Mizuki getting married. Nanami, creeped out, tries to leave the shrine but is prevented from doing so. Meanwhile, Tomo is sick with worry and resolves to find Nanami. Nanami asks Mizuki why no one comes to visit the shrine and realizes that the shrine doesn't even have a god. The shrine is revealed to have been abandoned by Lady Yanomori. Nanami sympathizes with Mizuki's loneliness and tries to comfort him, but Mizuki gets the wrong impression. He tries to throw himself on her, but Tomo shows up to the rescue. The fox and snake clash, leading to foxfire enveloping the shrine. Nanami stops Tomo before he can burn everything to cinders and comforts Mizuki that she'll come to visit to keep him from the loneliness. Nanami and Tomo head back to the shrine. Lady Narukami, the god of thunder, has declared her hate for Nanami and ends up at her school. She comes over with the intent of taking Mikage's shrine for herself. Tomo shows up as well, confronting Narukami. Narukami uses Lord Daikokuten's hammer to stop Tomo and turns him into a kid before proceeding to take Nanami's godly mark. The depressed duo sits on a bench with their shrine taken and Tomo running a fever. In the bleak situation, Kurama shows up and brings them to his palace. It is revealed that getting miniaturized caused Tomo's powers to run amok, causing his predicament. Meanwhile, Narukami is in the Mikage shrine, which has become run down again due to the lack of Tomo's spirit powers, so she tells the Shikigami to fetch him. The two come to get Tomo. Nanami tries to interject, but Tomo stops her from interfering and leaves Nanami to no longer pose a burden to her. A depressed Nanami thanks Kurama and tells him about what happened. He offers her his feather, so she can see Onigiri and Kotetsu. The two tell her that Tomo has hidden in the shrine, angering Narukami. So Natami goes to the shrine to find him. Narukami isn't pleased with Tomo's decision and gives back Nanami's mark and the hammer, bringing things back to normal and giving Tomo long, flowing locks. Tomo reseals the contract with a kiss. Nanami tries to keep her cool with a throb to Tomo, but looks like she has a fever. The events lead to Nanami resting and Tomo going to school disguised as her, an extremely cool version of Nanami. Meanwhile, Kurama tries to gain favor with Nanami through Tomo after he learns that Tomo joined the class while he was away, but all his attempts only infuriate Tomo further, disguised as Nanami. Yes, I have to reiterate that Tomo is disguised as Nanami. This is getting confusing. Tomo discovers that a miasma is flowing in the school and goes on to search for the cause. He finds a perverted spirit in the girls' locker room, but Nanami shows up before he can finish the spirit off. Kurama distracts Nanami while Tomo disposes of the spirit. Meanwhile, Mizuki is nursing Nanami back to health and failing miserably. Mizuki proceeds to use a time-bending incense burner to show Nanami Tomo's past. Here, Nanami is in Yukiji's body. She comes to know that Tomo spent his time killing hostile yokai and taking advantage of beautiful girls under another yokai named Akura. Nanami awakens with a new perspective on Tomo before he shows up and kicks Mizuki out, but his touch brings her feelings back to how they were. Nanami has finals coming up and Kurama and Tomo continue their rivalry. Meanwhile, Nanami asks for advice on approaching and thanking Kurama. Nanami decides to help her. Nanami uses a white air charm to get Kurama away from the horde of girls and asks him to wait for Nanami. She thanks him for saving her from the spirit before, but Kurama doesn't remember who she is. She runs away, but trips, leading them to get closer. Nanami and Tomo chat at school, getting a bit closer in turn. Word has spread that Nanami can help with boy trouble, and so two first years approach her and ask for help with their love lives. Well, one is a bit of a third wheel. Only the girl likes Tomo and asks Nanami to let her walk home with Tomo. She agrees half-heartedly. On the rooftop, Nanami has conflicted feelings about accepting the girl's request and ends up realizing that she likes Tomo just when Tomo shows up and gets angry for having her request. Nanami realizes just how in love she is. Kurama calls out to Tomo after the conversation on the roof and explains how he may be inadvertently seducing Nanami, but Tomo rejects the thought of it. Nanami gets advised by Kei that she should try going on an actual date with Tomo, so she takes him to an aquarium after school. Of course, Nanami ends up falling further in love, while Tomo is waiting for it to end. Nanami takes him to the roof in a last-ditch effort, and here Tomo confronts her about whether she's in love with him. She asks him, "What if it's true? What if I am?" This takes Tomo back. He carries her to the edge of the roof, saying that he won't fall in love with a human. While Nanami confesses outright, Tomo drops her by accident and jumps after her. While Nanami thinks she's been rejected, she refuses to hold his hand and uses the sacred word to tell him not to touch her during the free fall. Desperate, he promises never to touch her as long as she lets him save her this once. The two land safely. The next day, Nanami is depressed due to Tomo's rejection, so Kei and Nanami plan a trip to the beach. So the necessary beach episode ensues. Tomo doesn't want her to go, as the ocean is a hotbed for humans, and he can't even go in the ocean. Tomo and Mizuki end up coming along as Nanami refuses to give up. At the beach, Mizuki takes advantage of the fact that Tomo can't go in the ocean and goes for a swim with Nanami. Meanwhile, Mikage and another god, Odahiko, are observing Tomo and Nanami discreetly. Odahiko makes Ami disappear, leading to a distressed Nanami asking Tomo for help. Poor guy can't touch her affectionately due to the promise, though. Tomo saves Ami by entering the ocean, causing Sukuna, the Dragon King and ruler of the seas, to find him. Tomo attacked Sukuna's subordinates in the past and took his eyes, so Sukuna kidnaps Tomo. Nanami bargains with Sukuna, who asks for his right eye in exchange for Tomo. Nanami uses the time-traveling incense burner to go to the past with Mizuki as a guide. Here, she meets Tomo from the past. Tomo leaves with Mizuki, and Nanami follows. Tomo took the eye to grant eternal life to Yukiji. He gives her the eye, saying it's medicine, before leaving to get water. Nanami and Mizuki enter the room when Yukiji collapses on the floor. Nanami tries to fetch the medicine, but Mizuki intervenes, saying that she'll lose Tomo if she doesn't take the eye back. Nanami feeds Yukiji the eye anyway before the two go back to the present. Nanami asks Mizuki if she can meet Isoheim, so Mizuki takes Nanami to her, so she can extract the eye from her. Isoheim asks for 30 years of her life for it, and Nanami agrees. Isoheim extracts the eye but plans to betray Nanami. Mizuki steps in and kisses an unconscious Nanami to become her familiar before attacking Isoheim and getting the eye back. Mizuki and Nanami head to the Dragon King's palace on a turtle, just like finding meat. Anyway, the two reach the palace and find that Tomo is making a mess of it. Nanami shows up, and Tomo hides himself in a clam. Nanami pries it open and embraces him, stating her resolve that her feelings won't change, even if he doesn't see her in that way. Mizuki cleverly negotiates with the Dragon King before revealing to Tomo that he's now Nanami's familiar too. A flashback shows Tomo walking through a wasteland, waiting for death, before Mikage shows up and takes him to a shrine. Tomo made a contract with a former god, having promised that he would spend his life with a human woman. The woman died, so now he must as well. But he's a spirit, so he can't go to where Yukiji is. Mikage helps Tomo, casting a charm that will allow him escape the contract he made by forgetting Yukiji. Onigiri tells Mizuki about how Tomo didn't like touching humans when he initially became a familiar and got scolded by Mikage often. Eventually, Mikage got through to Tomo, and he carried out his duties as a familiar until Mikage eventually left and Nanami showed up back in the present. Nanami goes to a mixer half-heartedly with Tomo, Kurama, and Mizuki spying on her from the room beside hers. Nanami eventually discovers Mizuki as a snake and takes him to the bathroom for an explanation. Tomo shows up but hurts Nanami's feelings by stating that it was just a trivial matter. She goes out and Kohiromaki, the boy from the mixer, sits outside with her, flirts, and holds her hand. This leads to a kick from Tomo to his face before he drags Nanami away and confesses that it did in fact irritate him. Nanami's about to say something, but Mizuki ruins the moment. Mizuki heads off to get advice from Kurama on getting experience with humans, so he can go to school with Nanami in Tokyo. The inexperienced Mizuki gets haggled into spending a 50,000 yen offering from the shrine. Soon after, while looking for Kurama, he asks some men of his whereabouts, but ends up being chased off by the police after scaring the men off with a snake. Eventually, he meets up with Kurama, ending up at a lunch party with him. Mizuki ends up tasting a cocktail from a drunk adult and faints from the taste before a country girl comes to his rescue. The aspiring actress comforts Mizuki, telling him that she doesn't quite fit in here either, but she tries anyway because she loves the place, a statement that hits home with Mizuki. He gives his divine sake to the girl as she forgot to bring a drink for her mistress, helping her in turn before leaving for home. Nanami is trying to get Tomo to go with her to the amusement park, but finds an oriental hairpin while turning his room upside down. Tomo quickly hides it and goes with Nanami to distract her. The two spend the day in the park, going on multiple rides. After Tomo fixes her hair during the day, Tomo touches multiple girls, causing Nanami to get jealous, and she eventually blurts out that he liked a human girl before, so he's lying by saying that he won't develop feelings for any girl. Nanami is unaware that Tomo is unaware that he is unaware of being unaware with Mikage's enchantment. Nanami runs off, and eventually night comes around. She heads to the Ferris wheel alone, thinking that Tomo must have left. She bangs her head on the cabin, causing her hair to come undone. This makes the oriental hairpin fall out, and Nanami appears on top of the cabin before coming inside. Tomo reveals that he had bought the hairpin for her over yonder a while ago. Nanami overhears multiple people talk about her shrine as being haunted, and she resolves to hold a sacred ritual in the shrine so people's perceptions change. This leads to Mizuki, Nanami, and the two Shikagamis finding a decrepit sacred palinkin, and Nanami fixing it up. Tomo doesn't like the idea, but Nanami reveals that she wants everyone to know how much Tomo takes care of the shrine. Preparations for the festival ensue, and Kurama recommends Nanami do a ritual dance. Tomo gets Nanami a kimono for the ritual, complimenting her while she tries it on. After a while of practicing the dance, Odahiko comes along to observe Nanami's progress with Mikage and Tomo unimpressed. Odahiko approaches Nanami and releases miasma as a test for her exorcism prowess. The miasma envelopes the shrine right before the festival. Nanami tries to exorcise it with talismans, failing repeatedly. Mizuki and Tomo see the miasma and head to a distraught Nanami. Tomo carries her to her bed and tells her to stay there. Nanami loses confidence in herself and leaves the shrine, believing she isn't needed, causing a sealed box's talisman to rip. Mizuki and Tomo run off to find Nanami, leaving Onigiri and Kotetsu to fend off the miasma. Tomo's foxfires can't find her either, leading him to realize that she's probably turned herself into air to disappear. A lonely Nanami remembers her meeting with Mikage and realizes that the shrine is her home, reigniting her resolve. She heads back to the shrine, where that box that was unsealed is revealed to harbor a giant miasma. A spider spirit comes out of it, one that Mikage had defeated a long time ago and sealed away. Nanami shows up right as Kotetsu is about to be corrupted by the miasma. Donning her kimono, Nanami uses the ritual dance to fight the spider spirit. Dance Dance Revolution versus Spider Fight. In the end, Nanami stumbles and Tomo leaps in to protect her. The anime starts again, her dress changed by Mike's help. She completes the dance and defeats the spirit. The day of the festival, Nanami finishes her dance beautifully, earning praise from Tomo and clearing the reputation of the shrine. Tomo kisses Nanami, and that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.